Welcome to my first of hopefully many Blender tips. This is going to be a very basic tutorial for beginners. So if you're really advanced with Blender or you've been using it for years, you probably won't learn much from it. You might, but this is more aimed towards beginners. What we're going to do is we're going to be cutting a circle into this mesh here and extruding it out. So the way that I do this is a little more complicated than using loop tools, but I'm going to show you how to do it with loop tools, how to do it with the Boolean, and then also how to do it the way that I do it. I don't know if there's a name for the way I do it, but that's actually the way I prefer. So we're going to hit num on the one pad. We're going to go ahead and go into edit mode. We're going to select everything, and then we're going to press W, and we're going to click on subdivide, and we're going to change the number of cuts to 4. Now if your subdivision menu doesn't pop up, you'll have it right here and you can click that little arrow. We're going to go ahead and get out of edit mode, and we're going to press Shift D to duplicate. I'm going to just duplicate these twice, so we have a total of 3 cubes, one for each way that I'm going to do it. So we're going to click back on the first cube, press press 1 on the numpad, and then we're going to go into edit mode. Now I'm going to go ahead and press Control Tab, and I'm going to select these 9 faces right here. And then we're going to press W, and we're going to go to Loop Tools, and we're going to click on Circle. Now we have a nice circle there, and if you press E, you can extrude it out onto the current axis. Then we're going to press Control and 3, and we're going to go ahead and subdivide that. And now you have a pretty cool looking thing. It's not super smooth, but we can add smooth to that in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and add an extra loop cut in here just to kind of tighten that up. And loop tools is pretty handy. It does a pretty decent job of it, but if you notice, your topology here is a little bit wonky. It's really not that bad, but on a more complicated mesh, you would end up having a little bit of distortion, so you'll spend a lot of time fixing it, which is why I don't traditionally use loop tools unless it's a very simple mesh, and this is a pretty simple mesh. So that's the first one. That's pretty easy. We're going to go ahead and move over to the next one, and this one we're going to do a Boolean operator. Now with this one, we're going to hit Shift A, we're going to bring in a cylinder, we're going to go ahead and rotate it on the x-axis by 90 degrees, and then we're going to scale it down to about 0.6. Okay, so scaling, you just press S and then press 0.6. There you go. We're actually going to go ahead and press Control 3 on that object so we can subdivide it. I'm going to go into edit mode, press Control R, we're going to add a couple quick loop cuts just to give it some texture there. Now we're going to click back on our original cube here. Actually, let's go ahead and fix this ugly. If you ever had this little ugly kind of ripple effect in your topology, just Alt-click on that, and then press I to inset it, and just inset it like that, and that'll take care of that. Let's go and line this up a little bit better. Okay, so with that object selected, your main cube, we're going to go to our Modifiers tab. I'm going to add a modifier of Boolean. Now I usually will go ahead and select the object that I want to do first, and that's going to be the cylinder, and we're going to change it to Union, and then you click Apply, and so there we go, and now you have the same basic principle. We're going to go ahead and add a subdivision of 3 on here by pressing Control 3. There we go, and you can see that it is looking good.
Unknown caller.
Sorry about that. One of these days I'll learn to turn off my phone. So you may notice it's not quite exactly the same as this one, and that's kind of just what happens. But if you click on the object and hit Tab, you'll notice that there's a lot going on here. And that's kind of the issue that you get with Boolean, is you get kind of a big mess of just too much mesh, too much headache. I don't particularly like using it, but in a pinch it's great, especially if you're not going to add a material to here. And that's kind of where the big issue lies between the difference of these three, is that when you go to add materials, if it's a plain material it's no big deal, but if you're using texture maps and things like that, then it starts to get a little messy. So the way that I usually will add loops is this way. So we're going to go ahead, just like the other ones, we're going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to click on edit mode, and I'm going to press Control Tab and click on vertices, and I'm going to delete these vertices here, There we go, perfect. So we have that nice selection here. Now I'm going to Alt click on this edge right here. You notice it selects all of the edges around. If you look at this number right here, we have 12 vertices selected. That's really important to remember. So with these edges selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift S and then cursor to selected. And that's going to put the 3D cursor right in the middle of that selection. And one on the numpad, I'm going to hit Shift A. I'm going to add a circle. And I'm going to click down here on this tab here, and I'm going to change the vertices to the same number that was there by pressing 12. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it on the x-axis by 90 degrees. And we're going to just scale it down to where we want. Now, it's a little bit weird because of the background, but you see how it's fitting there just nice. Now, with all those selected, I'm going to press R, and I'm going to rotate it on the correct axis. For me, it's going to be Y, until these pretty much line up, just like that. So we're going to go ahead and leave that selected. I'm going to press Alt and Shift, and we're going to click on this edge. And then we're going to search for, because like I say, I'm still kind of new to 2.8, but we're going to search for bridge edge loops. Okay, so right there, bridge edge loops. And that's going to go ahead and, ooh, that was messy. Okay, sometimes it's a little bit messy, so we're going to go ahead and Control Z that, and we're just going to individually face these off. So we're going to click that one and that one. We're going to hit F, and we're going to face each one of these off. If we keep hitting F, it should go all the way around the circle. Perfect. Now I'm going to press Alt and click on that. We're going to go ahead and extrude it out, and I'm going to middle click so it stays on the axis. And we'll go ahead and just face these off by pressing F, or by clicking 2 and then pressing F all the way down. And then we're going to hit Control S, or Control 3, I'm sorry, to add a loop cut in. To add subdivision surface on there of a level of 3. We're going to press Control R and add a couple quick loop cuts. And there we go. Now for this, I'm going to go ahead and select a couple of these vertices here to give it a little bit more spacing so we have a nice clean topology, and that's what you're really looking for. You're looking for nice clean topology. So what I did here was I clicked on each of these 2 middle vertices and I pressed S and I just scaled them out a little bit to give it a nicer smooth transition. Now if you look at the topology here, this is about as perfect as you can get. You won't have any real issues with materializing it and all that like you will with the Boolean here and with the loop tools. Now I'm not knocking any of these ways. These ways all have their purpose. But 9 times out of 10, this is how I'm going to add into the material. And with this, you get kind of a little bit of wonky. This one wouldn't be too bad normally speaking because it is an okay transition. But sometimes when you're doing loop tools, if you have a very complicated mesh, it is really going to skew your materials. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and if you did, please like and subscribe for more tips and tricks. Thank you.